I was thrilled to have the opportunity to volunteer at CHIME several times a week at a school where all students, no matter their ability, learn together as a community. One of the reasons I decided to dedicate my life to the inclusion movement is because of the social justice premise of it. Although segregation was outlawed so many decades ago, and the law clearly states that separate is not equal, segregation is still seen at schools everywhere. Students are given a label and then segregated into different programs and classrooms based solely on their disability. I worked as a para while I was completing my teaching credential, and I was able to apply skills learned at CSUN to the students I supported at CHIME. Soon after, I got an interview for a position as a special educator. No matter how crazy it seemed in the beginning or how hectic it can seem now, the same underlying principles run through. Community, respect, empathy, creativity, and high expectations for all learners. That is what makes inclusion work. That and happy hour. If you know me as a teacher, you know that my least favorite thing about being a teacher is field trips. Being responsible for 28 other people's children off campus? Yikes. However, I am always reminded of how incredible our mission is and how much positive change our students will make in the world when I see them in action on field trips. While others may stare out of curiosity when they see something different, such as a student using a communication device to speak or a student using a wheelchair, our kids carry on like it is the norm. And the beautiful part is that it is the norm. They have learned from day one that some people talk using an iPad while others use their voice, but no matter what, every person's voice is valued. No matter who you are and what your abilities are, you can learn from each other. Natalie Melanson, CHIME paraprofessional, turned special educator, turned general educator.
I am Jewish. Yeah, I'll do this. Oh, hang on. I am in a group of 4, a Jew, a British, a Persian, and an American. All in one group. Race is a difference, but not a difference that has stopped us. If you tried to separate us, we would stick together like super glue. Point is, we're friends. And while the US and London are doing pretty good, as far as I know, Iran and Israel, not so much. But we don't care. Spending our days at CHIME since kindergarten has an effect on us, and a really good one, if I do say so myself. We had formed a friendship based on common likes, goals, and personality, not a war based on separate race. That's just my little circle of extremely close friends. In terms of normal friends, I have Spanish, Japanese, and African American. And what I just named, well, that's only what I know. I'm part Polish, part Egyptian, part Russian. The US and Russia aren't doing that great in terms of relationship. Does that mean Americans turned me down and excluded me for who I was? No. They didn't care that our countries of origin were fighting because we aren't our countries. This makes it simpler to form friendships. If whites were told to shame their African American, Spanish, or Japanese neighbors just because of their race, religion, or beliefs, then, first of all, that's not CHIME. Second of all, that's racism. And no child should be raised on the belief that they are superior or inferior because they are white, or African American, short or tall, fat or skinny. That isn't right. And that right there is what makes CHIME, CHIME. Noga Levari, 6th grader, CHIME Charter School.
We are a multicultural family. My family and I are immigrants from Iran. My husband is American, and our 2 children are mixed races. Because of the diversity in our family, our children understand that families and people are unique and have their own story. When we enrolled at CHIME, I had the impulse to let them both know what to expect in terms of having some peers in their class who may have a disability. It didn't take long for me to decide that I was not going to say anything to them, and instead, we were going to let them navigate on their own and come to us as needed. While at CHIME, my kids have learned and had it reinforced that everyone is different and unique. When my son needed to patch his eye for a period of time, he never once said to me, "Mommy, I'm concerned about others making fun of me." It was never an issue. One of my daughter's biggest and proudest moments at CHIME was reporting to me that she knows what special needs is. I wasn't sure what to expect and didn't know what she was going to say at her young age. Her interpretation was someone who needs more help. Sometimes I need a little bit of help, and sometimes I don't. The smile on my face was 1.5 miles long. I was so proud of her and loved how proud she was of herself. Erfan Marks, CHIME parent.
I'm going to talk about a time at CHIME when they respected my learning needs. I didn't have the best handwriting skills or memory. I kept forgetting other people's names at CHIME except for my friends and some of my old teachers. They gave me some flashcards with other people's names and faces. Slowly, I started to have a great memory of everyone I met. I sometimes had trouble remembering the content of the work I had to do, including the subjects. But now everything seems a lot easier for me because they gave me tests with worksheets that make sense to me. Some of the subjects are sometimes a lot of fun to do because of the activities that we have done. When I was little, I wasn't the best at handwriting, so they started making me do some of my own work on the computer. It was a lot of fun and faster to write essays and different kinds of writing assignments. Jeremy Chamberlain, 7th grader, CHIME Charter School.
Sapir has a very different ethnicity than me. Sapir is Israeli and Moroccan. Natalie is Thai and Jewish. No matter how different we are, they're my best friends. We all have different personalities, but we're all still very weird. CHIME brings us all types of people together to be one community. Alicia Garalfo, 7th grader, CHIME Charter School.
Our entire family was invited to a birthday party for one of my daughter's friends. She was in 5th grade at the time. Our entire family, which includes my son who has a disability, went to the party. We were outside watching a movie. My son was older than the other children at the party, so he was sitting near my husband and I at the back, while most of the other children were sitting down in front by the movie screen. My son began to make loud noises, as he does, and I noticed something remarkable. All of the children who went to CHIME just continued to watch the movie, eat their popcorn, never even pausing to glance back at my son. However, there were several children at the party that did not go to CHIME. Those children had stopped watching the movie and had turned to stare, mouth open, at my son as if they had never seen anyone behave the way he was behaving, and they couldn't take their eyes off him. Our children from CHIME understood about differences. The other children, sadly, did not. It made me so proud of the wonderful children CHIME is creating. I knew then that these children will grow into adults that understand diversity and will value all others regardless of their differences. Jody Navarro, CHIME parent and early education teacher.
I had worked at Cal State University Northridge for almost 20 years, so I had heard great things about this lab school and the CHIME preschool program for years. I knew that when I had a child, I too would want them to be part of that great community of diversity and inclusion. What I didn't know was that my son would be born with autism and would have a greater need for an inclusive, diversive school than I ever imagined, or that I would need it just as much or more than him. It was tough at first for me to come to terms with my child having a disability, to think that my son might not ever look at me in the eye, never acknowledge me when I walked into a room, never speak to me. At first, I was even a little jealous of other parents who had children with autism, when they said their kids were finally speaking to them. They had used various therapies on their children so they could learn how to talk. Whatever it took, these parents were determined to make their kids fit in. At that time, I thought we could try that approach too. Then one day, one of those parents happily said to me, "Our son was finally taught to say, 'I love you.' He doesn't know what it means, but he said it." Well, that didn't seem right to me. Why was it so important that he said it if he didn't even know what he was saying? I guess I would rather my son feel it than say it. My son was happy and healthy. His smile was contagious. He could light up a room by just being in it, and he pulled you in with him. He didn't need to speak or engage or participate the way others did. I saw that he was perfect the way he was. It was then that I realized that although I was excited for Cooper to be part of CHIME and its diverse environment, I was the one who really came to appreciate what that diversity meant. CHIME's philosophy is to accept people for who they are, not who they think they should be. CHIME never questioned what my son could or couldn't do. They just saw him as a child ready to learn and play. They encouraged his perspective and personality. They celebrated everybody in the classroom and the unique and different things that they brought to the table. All children had gifts to offer. My son flourished at CHIME and at home. He grew into a talented artist who is polishing his portfolio so he can apply to art colleges this fall. But the bigger story is how I grew and flourished. CHIME helped me to love and treasure my many abilities and taught me to see the wonderful diversity of the world all around me in a new and beautiful way. Johnny Barella, CHIME parent.